Okay, good morning. Rosh Chodesh. Yeah. Yom Yom. Aleph Tammuz. The Frierdiker Rebbe writes, as compiled by the Rebbe, the Mesiras Nefesh, appropriate to scholars, Torah scholars, that's literally translated the giving over of one's soul of Torah scholars, for Torah scholars, as our sages have expressed it. So it's a posik, it's a drush and a posik. It says, when a man dies in a tent, this is a plain meaning, of course, is associated with tumas mes, the tuma, the ritual impurity that applies to a person who dies in a tent. But we darshan it, the Frierdiker Rebbe is darshaning it, dying in a tent. Dying, signifying, meaning to kill all pleasure taking in worldly matters, and I would add the word expression per se, for their own sake. Because we know in worldly matters, especially on Shabbos, we do take pleasure. But that's the key. For Shabbos, for Hashem, we take pleasure. The pleasures that we have in worldly matters are to be directed and brought up, raised up in our service of Hashem. Back inside, for even trivial worldly delights, meaning again per se, prevent one from being thoroughly devoted and dedicated to the, quote, tent of Torah, the oil of Torah. Lessons in Tanya. Continuing our probe into HaKadosh Baruch Hu Soiviv Kol Almim, distinct from or contrasted with Mamalik Kol Almim. We're on page 956. We're catching up from yesterday. So 950, we're going to do the Hagah, the note on the topic of the following topic. We started by saying, last thing we said when we were last together was, by the way, this is on page, top of page, Pei Zion, opposite page 172. So when we were last together, we said, this is what we call Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? The one who is Kaddish. And we touched that the way Hasidus touches it, Muvdal, separate. Separate, and we pointed out, not meaning that he is not involved in, but on the contrary, he is totally involved in this level of Soivev. He's involved to Mechaya Umahava, everything. But he's doing it in such a way that has not yet emerged the differences, the hilukim, the departmentalization of things. This is the level so-called above, beyond, or deeper than the level with which he exudes all of creation. And we said that he is sometime, and from this level comes out his midos, and not only his midos, but even all of the 10 spheres starting with Chochmah. And we asked the question, if he is separate, so to speak, Kodesh, why have the Chachamim called him HaChakim, the wise one, or HaRachim, the merciful one? That seems to contradict the notion that he called that Hashem is HaChakim, HaRachim, Rachum. Seems to contradict the notion of Hashem being so-called separate from them. So he says at the bottom of page 112, where it's 172, where we were before, how this actually works and how he emanates these things is known to the maskilim. And the note here sheds some light on this conundrum, so to speak. How is it that we call Hashem by his midos when at the same time we call him HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which would imply separate from his midos, or in a world apart? So we're going to read the Haggadah. Sod HaTzimtzum. So this is all a function, that he is at the same time Kadosh Baruch Hu, which implies holy and separate, and at the same time is Mamalik Olamim. This is the secret of the Tzimtzum. The Tzimtzum be'or ein sof baruch hu, the contraction, or the concealment, or the diminishment of the infinite light, or the light of the infinite one, blessed be he. The Tzimtzum, Adam Kadmor, and the contraction of what's called Adam Kadmor. Adam Kadmor is the image of God before the Tzimtzum, and then then after the Tzimtzum. In other words, he starts. Adam Kadmor actually is technically, more specifically as defined, particularly by the Rebbe Rashab, is the state of the 10 spheros that appears after the Tzimtzum, Adam Kadmor. And there, Besod Hadikna, also you have, so this is one level of contraction. In other words, we have Eser Spheros Haganuzos, the 10 hidden spheros. Then they emerge from the state of hiddenness. They're not discernible at all as 10, but they're the mucker, they're the source of the 10. And then they emerge into some kind of visibility, tangibility, differentiability, which we call Adam Kadmor, and then goes further. And the next level that we're speaking about in the language of Kabbalah is called the Dikna. The Dikna is the beard or the hair. The hair, for instance, is attached to a life force, otherwise it can't grow. But at the same time, the amount of life in it is very small. That's why you can cut it and it doesn't have any pain. So we have 3 levels of emergence, from the source to Adam Kadmor and to the deepness. So there's a continuity that's being expressed across these 3 levels of different characteristics. Jesoid kol hatzimtzumim, and this is the secret of all the tzimtzumim. These we describe 3 levels. There are multiple levels of tzimtzumim. To the tzimtzum of the or, to the contraction of the light. Yislabish bebechinas kelim, as the light gets enclosed in what we call vessels, containers. Just like physical light, energy of electricity can't be megala, can't be expressed unless it's connected with a vessel like a light bulb. You don't have any illumination simply with electricity. So there's no, quote, illumination, there's no instantiation of the Or Ein Sof without going through a process that ultimately embeds the Or in the vessels. The vessel, and these are the vessels of the Yud Spheros, of the 10 spheros. And it's only after the light is invested in the 10 kelim, in the kelim, the Chabad of Chochmah Bina Das, etc. I put in the word etc. Oz Shaykh Lamer, then you can say, because of a Rambam, what the Rambam writes, Hi Hayadua, Hu Hamada, Hu Hayadea, Hu Hamada, Hu Hayadua, that he is the knower, the knowledge, and the known. Only after these at least 3 levels of condensation or instantiation, tzimtzum. And the Rambam goes on to says, he is the knower, the knowledge, and the known. And with the knowledge of himself, he knows everything which is found, everything which exists. That's the Rambam's quote. Lefi, because shebechinas kelim de Atzilus, because the vessels of Atzilus, nasim neshama v'chayas libiyah, they become the carrier, the soul, which carries the light and gives chayas to the lower worlds, and to everything which is within them. Aval bli tzimtzum, with bli tzimtzum, without any tzimtzum, if there were not for this tzimtzum factor, b'hal basha, in other words, enclothement of the Or Ein Sof in the kelim, analogy said above, lo shayach klal lemer, would be not at all relevant to say hu hayadeh v'hu hamada, that he is the knower. Why? And the known, etc. But why not? Ki eina b'bechinas together, and he's not in the category and the limitations of das umada. He's not yet in those. These are particular qualities, right? He's not yet before the tzimtzum. There are no discernible qualities. There's just Hashem Echad. There's the source of all the qualities, but not the emergence of and the tangibility or the accessibility of the qualities before that. It's only that's so he's not yet in that level of enclothement and boundedness in any faculty. Chas v'sholom, to say that God should be bounded and limited by any particular quality or series or multiple, even multiple qualities. He himself is much, much deeper, much, much higher than that. Ad ein case, without any end, which no fathoming it. He's even much, much higher than even the Geder, the limitation of Chokhmah, because that's a limit. It's Chokhmah, it's not Bina. God Chokhmah is so removed, so to speak, so much deeper, and in another realm entirely is he from that of Chokhmah, that Chokhmah in relation to that is Nechsheves Etzla Yisborach, is considered by him by Bechinas Asiyah, as if it's actually Asiyah Gashmias physicality. So Chokhmah of Atzilus, compared to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is like the physical world down here below. Garnished. It's nothing compared to it. It's a whole different realm, the realm of Hislapshus, the realm of Ha'ora, the realm of Gilui, is much different world than the world which is the source of it up above. Back inside. Having said all this, the Alter Rebbe says it's not for us to deal in the things which are concealed. It's only for us to deal with what's revealed to us, and lahamin emunah shlema, and to have complete faith and belief. As we said earlier, this is not what we just said here, and the Kabbalah expands upon the awareness or the sensitivity to it, which we spoke about how to become aware of it, is not in the capacity of haskala, of mindfulness, of mindedness. It's in the faculty of emunah. It's to us to believe with emunah shlema that he and his causations or his kalim or the vehicles by which he brings everything to being are one. He is invested in them, and he and all of his 10 spheros are one with him, which is a little bit of a contradiction, because he is one, and yet here are 10. But this singularity, this oneness, is invested in all the 10, and from there in all the multiplicity and myriad infinity of every detail. These 10 that we're talking about is the 10 spheros, and particularly his midos, his 7 midos, his 7 midos, and his will and his wisdom, so his will, chachma, and his bina, and his das. All of that, whole structure, and it's interesting that he includes will, which is the intermediary between HaKodesh and Baruch Hu. Will joins the two together, the ayin and the yesh, but he includes will in this structure, including will and all chachma, bina, das, etc., all of their malchus, are all united, are one with imahusa v'atzmusa, with what he is and his very essence, hamarei milavada, which his very essence is lifted up and alone, meaning in a different realm entirely. And this is the stira. He's in a different realm, he's Kodesh, and at the same time he's Baruch. The separateness is drawn down into the connectedness or the multiplicity. The ayin penetrates into the yesh. And the ayin is tens upon thousands of levels without end, much higher in a totally different realm, even from Chokhmah, from the Chinas Chokhmah, v'seichel b'hasoga, and any intellect and any understanding. Therefore, therefore, his unity, which is united with his midos, which the midos emanated from him, his may be blessed, Gam came in bechinas hasoga. His midos also are not in the realm of understanding. Lahasi, to understand how God is united, God himself is united with them. Therefore, they're called, because he is united with them, the midos of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Shehena Spiros, B'Zohar Kodesh, this is the Spiros, which are discussed at root, the root of our discussion of Spheros goes back to the Zohar. And in the Zohar, this unification of Spheros, right? Spheros, one of the meanings of Sphero brought by the Alter Rebbe, is to count, sapir, to count, or to tell the story, count. So, but counting and above counting, counting and beyond number and beyond number become united. And this is not in the realm of understanding, and therefore the Zohar calls this Roz de Hamanuta, the secret of faith. Shehi Amuna Shilamayla min HaSeichel, which is Amuna, which is higher than Seichel. I'm going to stop here for a moment. We're going to now go into today's Tanya. Let's just stop here for anything that's on your mind. Nothing on anybody's mind. Okay. Very good. Plenty of time. Okay. However, nevertheless, since the Torah in the language of Chazal and Gemara Bruchas says the Torah speaks according to the language of people, B'nai Adam, l'shachar es ha'ozon, to enable the ear to hear, ma'ashehu yechela l'shmoya, what it's able to hear. Lokach, therefore, nidnu reshus l'hachmiya emes, is given permission to the wise ones of truth, l'darba b'sephiros, to speak about the spheres, b'derek mashal, by way of an example, right? Mashalim, the Torah permits us to make mashalim. And it not only permits us, but tells us in Eve that it's from these mashalim that we can start to get some feel, I used to notice I would word feel rather than understanding, but understanding and feel for that which is beyond understanding through mashalim. And by way of a mashal, we call the godliness which comes into revelation, Gilui, we call it Or, the Or Ein Sof, the light of the infinite one, or the light Baruch Hu, or the light which is infinite. We call it Oisen Oiris, and therefore we call the Spheros. This is another meaning of Saphir, which means Saphir means to, like the jewel of Saphir, means to shine, the sapphire, to shine. So on the one hand, Saphir means to count, it means enumerate, right? On the other hand, at the same time, it shines with a light which is beyond numeration. So Kora Ois and Oidus. So we call that shine, that energy, we call that light. In order that through this mashal, Yuvan Lano, it can be understood by us, a little bit of the topic of the unity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the removed one, as he becomes Baruch Hu and becomes united with his midos, Shehu b'derek mashal, which is in a manner of a metaphor. Ka'en, and what's the metaphor? That man is ka'en yichud or hashemesh shebeteich guf kader hashemesh. The metaphor is the unity of the light of the sun as it is within the body of the globe of the sun. The light of the sun as it is within the body of the sun, im guf hashemesh, with the body of the sun. The light of the sun. In the sun, as the light of the sun, that light is united with the body of the sun. Shenikra moyer, which this body of the sun is called the radiator. So the light is the radiation, and the body of the sun is the source of the radiation, like a flashlight. The flashlight is the source of the light, and the light comes out of it. So the sun is the mo'er, the source of the radiation, and the so-called ray of light, which comes from it, is the emanation from that body, from that source. So we have that metaphor. We have that reality, and we use it as a metaphor. First of all, where do we get the metaphor from? From the Torah, like everything else. Es hamer hagadol, the sun is called in Bereshis hamoyer hagadol, the great radiator, the great source of life, hamoyer. the haziv and the ray, the hanitzus and the spark, which it flows out from it and radiates from it, nikra or, is called light. And that's also for Yikra Elakim Laor Yoim. He called to the light, to the radiation of the light, day. Now, when that light is in its source, it's united with it in a complete unity. So here we have a metaphor for light in one phase being one and the same with the emanator, i.e., embodied. This is the Or Ein Sof before it's Megala, certainly before the Tzimtzum. It's united with him. And then after the Tzimtzum, and here's the difference though, as we'll see, that after the Tzimtzum, that light, there's no separation, because we have to apply here the notion, Ein Od Milvado, there is nothing besides him. It comes into a different state, meaning a state of perception, but it's the same light. This light that's within him is the same light that's down here. Metaphorically, almost the same. The light that we down here is also always connected with the sun. If the sun, God forbid, were to go out, the light would stop. Okay, but in Hashem's space, there's no distance between the radiator and the radiation. But the mashal tells us they are always connected, and therefore the light before the tzimtzum and the light after the tzimtzum are one and the same, just different states of that same light. Ki ein, I'm turning the page, ein sham rak etzem acher. Because when the light is in its source, united with him, there is only the essence, and there's no other essence. Shehu guf hamer, there's only the body of the sun, hamer, the body of the sun, which is shining, which is radiating. We're still in the mashal. Ki haziv ha'or, because the ray and the light, shum, there in the body of the sun, that ray of light is an etzem echad mamish, is one and the same with him mamish. Ima guf hamer, with the body of the radiator, hamer, which shines. Ve'ein lo shumetzias klal, and in the sun, keeping in our metaphor, when the light of the sun is in the sun, there's no metzias of rays of light. There's no rays of light. What there is, well, in the sun, there's fire, right? We wouldn't call it a ray of light, a beam of light. Call it fire or bubbling gas, whatever it is. It's only as it starts to leave the sun that it starts to become something which we call a ray, a gili, something that can be revealed. And coincident with its being revealed is its usefulness in the sense of Hashem to create everything, and in the sense of us down here to enliven. We talked about photosynthesis and other things down here below. But when it's in the sun, ein le shum metzias klal, it doesn't have any metzias at all bifnei atzmei, on its own. That's the mashal.
Avi, is the mashal that the ray is like a tzimtzum because it has
the ray, exactly. The ray is like a tzimtzum, exactly. And before the tzimtzum, it's just sun. Good.
Interesting. Excellent.
Okay, and similarly to this is all the mashal we've done so far. Similarly, mamish, the yaisim is there, and even more so, hey midosav shel HaKodesh Baruch Hu, the midos, right? Mido means measure, which is something that happens, at least is revealed after the tzimtzum. And so similarly, but just like the ray of the sun, its revelation is after the tzimtzum, is after it leaves the sun. So the midos of HaKodesh Baruch Hu are after the tzimtzum, but always connected with the sun, with God Himself. So that's the nimshal. So from here, midos of Shel HaKodesh Baruch Hu, the midos, the measured out things of Hashem, His midos, v'ratzoni v'chakmasai, and His will and wisdom, ba'olam ha'atzilus. In the world of Atzilus, they are united in a revealed way, with his essence. Kaviyakol, if you could say such a thing. Hamislabish b'seicham, which is enclosed, this essence is enclosed within the midos, umisyachid imohem, and united with them, b'tachlis hayichud, with a complete unity. Because they're emanated from God, may He be blessed. Al derech Moshe k'derech hispashis ha'or shemesh, like the light of the sun from the sun. However, no mashal is exactly like the nimshal. Achlei mamish b'derech zeh, but not exactly like this. Rak b'derech rechecha v'niflo. It's really much more wondrous and far away than this mashal. Mihasigenu, from our understanding. From our understanding. Because the pasuk says, higher are his ways than our ways. This is a totally different realm, but the mashal is useful. Makol makim, as he said, it's useful. To enable an ear to hear, and to have some faculty to contemplate this, from the mashal of the light of the sun, when that light of the sun is united with and nullified in the source. And not yet has the name of a ray, on itself. When the light is in the sun, what we call it sun. And when it's in the atmosphere, and eventually when it touches and has an effect on anything, we call it sunlight. But when it's in the sun, it's just sun. So similarly, all the attributes of the Holy One, blessed be He, and His will and wisdom, they don't at all, they don't get these names at all, just like the ray of light only becomes a ray of light after it so-called leaves the sun, gets on its journey away from the sun, even though it's constantly connected with the sun. So the ray of the sun, so to speak, the emanations of or Ein Sof, only get their names when they are revealed to something that can perceive it. The Nevroim, the created things. The upper created things and the lower created things. Whose state of being and their life and their conduct is all according to these rays. Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He, and brings them into being and enlivens them, umanhigum, and conducts them. Who and how does He do it? With these faculties, which we call faculties only after the Tzimtzum. We do call them faculty before the Tzimtzum, like Esesphiros Aganuzos, but they're not discernible faculties. And then deeper than that, in levels deeper than, in deeper levels of before the Tzimtzum, there are levels before the Tzimtzum as well. They're absolutely, we can't call them anything. We can just call them Hashem Echad, or Yichud, alone. They have no characteristics, no names, no emergence of quality at all. So all of them, He uses, but nevertheless, as they emerge from that state, they are becoming tools for Him, energies that He can and does manipulate. And these energies are called Ratzoina, His will, Behachmasa, His wisdom, Ubinasai, in His understanding, Vedaitai, Hamislapshis B'midois of Gedoshis, and these Chabad, Ratzon Chabad, becoming clothed in His holy midos. Kediyisa b'midrash, as is brought in the midrash, it's actually Gamor and Chagiga, but it's a midrash there. It says, "V'asoda devorim nivra ha'olam." With 10 things, Hashem created the world. B'chokma, b'tavuna, u'b'das. So He starts naming the 10 spheros. These are all emanations of Hashem. And as I use the word tools, because He says, with these 10 things, He created the worlds. But these are not tools like tools in the hands of a craftsperson, because a tool in the hand of a craftsperson is a separate thing entirely. The tool in the hand of Hashem is Him Himself emerging into multiplicity and toolness. It's written, Hashem b'chokhmah yisod, it's a pasuk. He uses chokhmah, and with the chokhmah, He creates the foundation of the world. Yisod, He founds the world. And He establishes the lands, the heaven, with His understanding. And with His das, the depths are split apart. So you see how these are tools in His hand, and yet they're not tools in His hand. They're still He alone, because Ein od milvado. There's nothing besides him. Ukamai min Eliyahu, it says in the Zohar, Yafika says to the Kumin, he brings forth 10 tikkunim, 10 things which he uses to fix up stuff. And we call them Eser Sfirim. We call them the 10 Spiros, Lahan Hogabahan Olmin, to conduct with them worlds, steaming hidden worlds, the Layas Galion, which are not revealed, the Olmin des Galion, and worlds which are revealed, Ubahen Iskasias, and in them you hide yourself. Not like the farmer with his hoe, where the hoe is different than the farmer. He himself is hidden within all of the 10 spheros, all of the 10 tools. That's today's thing. All right. Yeah, Chayimka. Go.
Hi, good morning. Sorry, I had
Good
to unmute.
morning.
Can you explain the Adam Kadma? I got a little confused there.
Yeah, Adam Kadma is the emergence of the 10 spheros right after the Tzimtzum. That's what, because Adam, look, I mean, maybe this needs to be Adam. Look at Adam, a human, is composed of Chabad, Chagas, Nahi, and Malchus. We have 10 powers which are equated to the 10 spheros. The emergence of them in the realm of godliness is called the emergence of after the Tzimtzum. Now, where they have some kind of differentiation between them, is called Adam Kadma, the supernal man. Does that explain it? Mm-hmm.
That's how the Sphirot come out of that?
That's how the spheros emerge from their allness and singularity into discernibly 10. And that begins the beginning of what we call spheros. And we call multiplicity. Spheros is multiplicity.
Right.
Multiplicity, right? Multiplicity. I mean, we can go deeper than this and talk about deeper, but this is where, it always says when you're learning Hasidus, you have to know where you're holding. Because this is an infinite. You can talk about, relative to something which is relative to the levels before the Tzimtzum. So in those levels also, we could speak about relative emergence. But here we're speaking about Tzimtzum and after the Tzimtzum, forgetting all the levels before the Tzimtzum, but Tzimtzum and after the Tzimtzum. After the Tzimtzum, you have the emergence of a plurality, spheros, that is, quote, tangible, that can be now used as tools and building blocks by Hashem to create.
All right. So the or, there's a Tzimtzum, and then the or goes into the Adam Kadma, and it differentiates the Sphirot.
It not goes into, we call that you just described, or into vessels. After the Tzimtzum, we call that Adam Kadma.
Okay.
Because every power that we have, let's say a power of movement, there's a light in a vessel, right? There's the energy. I'm moving my hand. There's some nervous energy in my hand, but for it to be useful, it has to be united with my hand. Otherwise, it's not useful. And that's, if it's not useful, it's a state of dysfunction. There's a separation of the or and the kalim. So when ors and kalim are together in a way that's revealed, that's what we call a sphera after the Tzimtzum.
Okay.
Or,
Thanks.
even though, you have to know where you're holding. Sometimes the spheros are called just by the name. The lights themselves are called spheros, from the Lashon saphir, to shine. But
Right.
in order to shine, in order to be revealed, they need to be invested in a vessel.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Good question. Hopefully the answer was understood. Anybody else? Well, we are over my time at least, but how about a Bachain? Therefore, know who you are, know what you got, know what everything is. It's the Ein Sof in a package. And because it's the Ein Sof in a package, we have to listen to it, and we have to respect it. and we have to utilize it for what he packaged himself for, which is for Geula.
Let it happen right now.
Amen. See you tomorrow, Mr. Hashem.
Thank you, Avi.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
What is tov? What is tov?
Adishto.
Thank you.